Okay, so this video is going to pick up from where we left off. So just to make sure we all got the correct area, and I cut off right at the end there. So our area is going to be found by doing the apothem times the perimeter divided by 2. So we have 9.7082 times your perimeter of 70.5342. You get that 684, but then we have to divide by 2. In other words, multiply by a half. So your final area that we're going to go ahead and write down as our final answer is going to be 342.4. You don't want to round to the nearest tenth until the very last step. And the units are going to be centimeters squared because area is always squared. So this is our final answer. And on the EOC, you do not want to round at any of the steps in between. So my perimeter should not be written as 70.5. You want to go the full 4 decimals. Your apothem should not be written as 9.7. You want to go the full 4 decimals. Now, where I want to pick up from, I just want to do a couple of practice problems. So when I introduce this next problem, you're going to ignore the 16 meters squared in the corner. We're going to be finding the area of this regular triangle. Pause the video, copy it down. Okay, so I'm going to pretend like we all copied it down. We have that good. So let's go ahead and set up our problem. So if we're going to go ahead and find the area of this regular triangle, we're going to do our graphic organizer. Our graphic organizer is going to look like this. Area equals 1/2 the apothem times the perimeter. Apothem blank, and then perimeter blank, so that we remind ourselves what we need to find. All right, the first thing that we have here, we are actually given this 9, which is your apothem. So we have the apothem, really simple. We're going to go ahead and write it in. We have the apothem, and our apothem is 9. Now, the next thing that we need then is the perimeter. So let's go through our steps and make sure that we can go ahead and get our perimeter. Even though we have the apothem, we still go through all of our steps. Step 1 is going to be draw the radii of your shape. So we have one radius drawn in. Let's draw the second one. So here's our second radius. They're congruent. The next step is to find the central angle. So 360 divided by the number of sides, which is 3, is going to give you your central angle. So we have 120 degrees for this angle in the center. Next, step 2 says draw the apothem, which is going to go to the midpoint of your side. So this green apothem that I just drew in, it's going to go to the midpoint of my side. So I have to remind myself, this side is getting cut in half. And then the next thing says to go ahead and bisect your side, which we kind of did, but we're going to put an X there for each of them. And then also bisect your central angle. So if our central angle is 120, if I divide that by 2, 120 divided by 2 is 60. So I have 60 degrees for the left and 60 degrees for the right. Step are we on? Step 4, I believe, right? Step 4, we're going to go ahead and break out one of our right triangles so we can use some trig to solve for whatever's missing, either the apothem or the side, depending on what we were given. In this case, we have the apothem, so we're going to be looking for this bottom portion of the side, so this half of the side right here. Okay, so go ahead and break out our little right triangle. All right, so we have the apothem, which is 9 centimeters. Our angle at the top is 60. That's half of our central angle. And our missing half of the side is x. So I'm going to be trying to solve for that x. Now, the way we're going to solve for it is trig. So I want to go ahead and label in my opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Opposite the 60, that's your x. The 9 that we have is the apothem, and it's the adjacent. And then our hypotenuse, we don't have any information for. So don't use the hypotenuse. We're going to use opposite and adjacent. So we're going to use O and A, which means we're using TOA, tan. So we're going to go ahead and write down, we're going to use tan of your 60-degree angle equals your opposite side of x over your adjacent 9. We're going to multiply both sides by 9, and we're going to get x. So in our calculator, we're going to do the tangent of 60, it's that decimal, times 9. So we have 15.58, so about 15.6. So I'm going to go ahead and write down 15.5885. I want to go at 4 decimal places. So I know what this little piece is, that little x value, that's 15.5885, but I want the whole side. So the whole bottom side, because I want to get the perimeter, I'm going to have to double that 15. So I'm going to do times 2. So it's going to be 31.17, and then we have 69. Okay. So that's the length of the entire bottom side, but I need the perimeter. So since all 3 sides are equal, I'm going to multiply this by 3, and that's going to give me my perimeter. So my perimeter in my calculator, I'm going to do times 3, and it's 93.5307 for my perimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in, 93.5307. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plug everything into my formula, which is my last step, and get my area. So that perimeter times the apothem of 9 times 0.5, or dividing by 2. Remember, you could do either one. And you get 420.888883. And then if I round to the nearest tenth, because on the EOC they're usually going to ask you for the nearest tenth, which is the first decimal, I'm going to have my final answer being 420.9. And the units is going to be centimeters squared. Final answer. Okay. Let's try another one. I'm going to skip that one. Let's try this one. We're going to find the area of the regular hexagon. So pause the video, copy it down, and we're going to start from there. Okay, so now we're back. Go ahead and start with step 1. We're going to draw the 2 radii. So I already have 1 drawn in. I need the second. Find the central angle. So my central angle is going to be 360 divided by the number of sides. It's a hexagon. The number of sides is 6. So it's going to be 60 degrees. So 60 degrees is my entire central angle. Before I get any further, I'm going to write down what I'm trying to solve for, and that's the area. So 1/2 apothem perimeter. A equals blank. P equals blank. All right, now step 2, draw the apothem, which is already drawn in for us. It is this green line down the middle. And that green line is drawn to the midpoint. So remember, where it crossed, that's the midpoint of that bottom side. It's going to be equal on both sides of the midpoint. Step 3, have that apothem bisect the side and the angle. So I'm going to put an X and an X for each portion of the side. And then my angle, 60 divided by 2, is 30. So I'm going to have 30 for the left, 30 for the right, 30 degrees. Now the next step is going to be to solve for the apothem and for this bottom portion, the X, or just 1/2 of it, half of the whole side, by breaking out our right triangle and using some trig. So this is our right triangle. So let's break it out. Okay, if I break it out, I'm going to redraw it. Okay. I have my 30 degrees here. This is my right angle. I have the apothem, which is 21 meters, and I'm missing half of that bottom side. I'm going to label in my values for opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So 30 degrees, this is opposite, this is the adjacent, this is the hypotenuse. Now, some of you may notice this is a special right triangle. It's a 30, 60, 90. So you could do special right triangles here to get your answer, but I'm just going to rely on trig. Okay, so I need to solve for not the apothem, because you know what? We have it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in. I have the apothem. but I need to solve for the perimeter. So I need to start off by solving for x, and then I can get the whole side, and then I can get the perimeter. So if I'm going to be solving for x, that means I need to know a trig function that uses O and that uses A. So I'm going to be using tan again. So go ahead and scroll down for a second here. So I'm going to be doing tan of 30 equals your opposite side, which is x, over the adjacent side, which is 21. Multiply both sides by your 21. So in your calculator, we're going to be doing 30 tangent times 21 equals 12.12 or so. Okay, so x equals 12.1244. Okay. Now that's just this one little x. I'm going to double it so I get the whole side. So my calculator, keep it in there, do times 2, and that's your whole side. So the whole side, one side, is 24.2487. Now, since I have 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that bottom 6, and they're all congruent because it's a regular hexagon, I'm going to multiply that 24 by 6 in order to get my perimeter. So times 6 in the calculator, and you're going to get 145.4923. So I'm going to put that in. It's going to be a little small, but 145.4923. Now, I just need to plug in and I'm done. So I'm going to plug in the apothem, the perimeter, and the 1/2 into my area formula. So keeping the perimeter in there, let me multiply by the apothem, which is 21, and then multiply by 0.5. And that's my final answer for the area. It's going to be 1,527, and if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, will be 0.7 units as meters squared. Okay. Make sure you have all those notes, and I will be checking them in class. Right? Ask any questions that you have. Write them down so that you don't forget them. Pulte Math out.